Hello, everyone in Crash Talk 3D family. Welcome back. Every time we come to this platform, we commit to conversations that move people, conversations that challenge, comfort, and confront truth and push towards safer roads and stronger communities. Again, your host, LaDonna, Claude. And before we introduce our today's guest, I want to pause and to bring voice to that grounds of platform, which is my co-host Michael.
Hi.
Michael, talk to the land of the living out there, as they say.
Well, before we get started, because I know we'll have important questions for Caroline, but I'd read Caroline's biography and I know she went to Florida State, so I'm just going to put up my
Oh,
Hurricanes hat. I'm a boy from
That's a good
Miami,
one.
Caroline, so I wanted to do this now before we get into,
yeah.
the big stuff of your career.
The important things. I hear
Right.
you. Hear
Yeah.
you.
That's
I wanted
awesome.
to
That
start
was
us
a
off
good
on
one,
the right
Michael.
foot and go Hurricanes. That's all. That's all I really have to say for the whole interview. So,
No.
If everybody don't already know, Michael is our comedian. He has a background comedian. I'm an undercover comedian. I try. All right. So, thank you, Michael. That was very impressive. That was a great one. And being also, Michael is also our survivor on this as well. He has a great story.
so for Caroline's information, I'm a survivor of drunk driving crash when I was 8 weeks old. My family and were hit by a drunk driver. My mother was killed at age 28. All my bones were broken, skull fractured, and here I am, 8 days away from being 56. And I dedicated my life to sharing my story so other people didn't have to go through it with humor and it was all, of course, emotion. So that's a little bit about me for Caroline, aside from this.
Great. I love it. All right, listeners, today we welcome a woman whose leadership touches every corner of highway safety in America, Miss Caroline Cash, who serves as the Chief Communication Officer for the Governor's Highway Safety Association, abbreviated GHSA, an organization that works with every state to reduce crashes, injuries, and fatalities on our roads. Carolyn has spent more than 20 years shaping national safety messaging, strengthening state program, and elevating the voices of families impacted by impaired driving, distracted driving, speeding, and others preventable tragedies. One accomplishment that stands out with her work in expanding GHSA's national impaired driving initiatives is ensuring states have the tools, data, and partnership needed to save lives. Carolyn, I want you to know from Crash Talk 3D that we honor your leadership. We honor your commitment to prevention, and we have honored the way you use communication not to just inform, but to protect. I want to open the floor for you now, and please tell your story in your own way.
Oh, thank you, LaDonna and Michael. I will forgive you the University of Miami intro. Um, well, that's where it all started. That's sort of my story. It's quite circuitous in terms of my degrees in theater. I went to Florida State and spent the first 15 years of my professional life as a professional actress, working in the DC area and all of the areas around. From there, I was asked to teach music and theater to middle schoolers. So I spent 7 years as an educator. And it was during that time, actually shortly after, one of my students, two former students were involved in a impaired driving crash. One of them was killed and one of them was temporarily paralyzed. And from there, my career path took quite a turn. And I went to work for Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And I was the executive director there for 7 years. Then went to NHTSA for 13 years in the impaired driving division. And through that, all of that, the work with victims, whether it was at a Walk Like Mad event that was hosted, and we had victim families, raising money so that we could provide victim services, whether it was working with victims at the Maryland legislature in Annapolis on impaired driving laws, trying to get ignition interlock passed. It took us years, and the commitment of victims who have been impacted, whether it's through impaired driving, distracted driving, drowsy driving. I mean, the passion and the dedication that they have shown for their families, and for the rest of us, so that we don't have to experience what those families have, I think is what has touched me the most.
Oh, okay. So here's my question. As being part of the GHSA mission, do you believe the public still doesn't fully understand?
Yes. I think the public, we seem to have this, it happens to other people
Okay.
mentality, I think sometimes. And so I don't think we necessarily understand the dangers. We've seen lots of survey results where someone will say they see other people doing things that would distract them from driving, but they don't seem to think, they don't hold themselves accountable for those same behaviors. They may be doing the same behaviors, but they don't think it's dangerous for them to do it. It's other people. And so I think, we as a society need to get back to a little bit more of our own personal accountability and recognize that these news stories that we're hearing, these reports, these surveys that we keep putting forward that talk about the dangers really do reflect our own personal safety, and we need to take personal accountability and not commit those behaviors. And if we can promote the positive behaviors, if we can look at the people who have never had an impaired driving instance, if we look at people who know to put the phone down when they get in the car, I feel like we don't celebrate some of the positive behavior. And that might help other people realize they could do the right thing as well.
I need to get a bigger discount on my car insurance then. I'm a great driver.
Well, and those programs do exist, right? Go ahead, sign up. Do
Right.
yourself a favor, sign up and get that discount. Be the good driver.
Yes. All right, here's my next question. What are the biggest challenges states face today in reducing impaired driving, and how is GHSA helping address them?
I would say some of the biggest challenges are just lack of manpower. There aren't enough law enforcement officers available.
Okay.
We probably need far more officers that are trained DREs, drug recognition experts, particularly in the rural states where if there's a crash, a DRE could be hours away, which of course means the evidence is dissipating. And I think the other piece of that is getting people to fully understand the impact of drug impaired driving. We've spent a great amount of time on alcohol impaired driving. Everyone knows what that is, right? We've had organizations like MAD who have made that messaging so clear. But I think there is some lack of information, or perhaps even misinformation, in terms of drug impaired driving. I mean, we've all heard people say in terms of using marijuana or cannabis, I drive better. No, you don't. No one drives better under the influence of anything that is going to mess with your brain. Anything that changes the way you think changes the way you drive, period. And that can include over-the-counter medication. If you're taking, medications for colds or allergies, sometimes those cause drowsiness. Correct. So then you're driving and you're drowsy. Those are the types of actions that we need personal accountability. And the states, they are doing an amazing job So many states right now are looking at passing laws that would allow for oral fluid testing roadside, which of course will help identify drug impaired driving. You know, we know it's presence and not necessarily impairment, or maybe some people don't know that. Oral fluid testing is looking for presence of a drug. That type of testing would not be used in court to say someone was impaired. That's going to take a DRE investigation or a blood test. But those types of tools that need to be made available to law enforcement officers will only help keep the road safer for everyone.
I totally agree with you on that. So what big project are you working on now? Can you disclose?
We're working on a bunch of big projects.
But which one is like really you're putting into your passion and it's exciting?
Well, our conference is coming up and it's very exciting. We have an annual meeting every year. And what I love about the annual meeting is the amount of information that is provided. It crosses all of the topics that are affecting road safety and passenger safety and vulnerable road users, impaired driving, distracted driving. We're going to have information, workshops, general sessions on all of those topics. Communications, how do states better communicate? So I'm really excited and passionate about making sure that everyone that's attending that meeting gets the best possible experience. I know you've attended, LaDonna, and I think the other thing about that meeting that I so enjoy is the camaraderie and the feeling of almost family. It's you see people that you haven't seen for a year. You have an opportunity to catch up with them. You're making those connections and those partnerships. You know, nobody can fight any of this dangerous behavior alone. You know, none of us can do it in a vacuum. We talk frequently about people operating in silos. And I feel like this conference really breaks that down. We have an opportunity to see everyone. We have an opportunity to connect and introduce people to each other. I mean, that's one of the things I love doing most at the conference is somebody asks me a question about something and I'm like, oh, wait, I know who has that answer or has a project going on. Let me introduce you. So bringing those folks together and making those connections is really exciting to me. And really, to me, one of the most important things I can do in communications and as the chief communications officer is make those connections for people.
So before you get off, I don't know if you want to do it now, you can. Tell the listeners the day of that conference. I don't know if it's too late, if some can still get in.
The day,
okay, and how they can reach out.
Open, GHSA.org, www.ghsa.org, and there's a big link for you to register right there. The conference begins on Sunday, the 30th for everyone. There are pre-meetings for some folks a few days before that, but it starts on August 30th and goes to September 2nd. We close out with our midday general session and we adjourn at noon on the 2nd of September.
And where is it going to be held at again?
We are in Minnesota. We are in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
And where's...
I'm sorry, I was going to say, and if you've never been to the Minneapolis State Fair, the Minnesota rather State Fair, we're going. So there are opportunities to get a ride on a bus to the State Fair and enjoy that as well.
I did enjoy myself last year when I went and made a lot of connections, and I actually partner up with Alliance Highway.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we did partner.
Those are the type of connections and meeting people that you might not otherwise be in the same room, right? You know, it's an opportunity to see the cars in the exhibit hall, the manufacturing, and, you know, our conference this year is focused on technology and technology that's going to be available for people to see and hear about, learn about. We're introducing what we're calling tech talks, which are short presentations in the exhibit hall where the technology itself will be described and a state highway safety office or partner will explain how they use that technology to make the road safer in their state or area. And I mean, that's That's exactly what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to make connections, use every tool available to make roads safer in each of our cities, towns, states, and the US in general.
Well, Michael, I think our connection might need to be in GHSA. What do
Yeah,
you think?
I agree, and I just want to know how does one become a speaker? It sounds like you need someone who could bring humor with a powerful emotional story, who might be a
Yes.
Hurricanes fan, to one of these things to, uplift people, make people laugh and welcome. I can't do it this year, but what do we say for next year's conference?
I'm with you on
I
that,
should have went to
Michael.
Pittsburgh last year, even for a day, because it's an hour and a half away from me in Ohio. And I will be in Lorton, Virginia next week, visiting friends. But yeah, I would love to talk to you about how to do that, because I think it would be kind of fun to do,
Sure.
especially the way I do the program. And of course, being a survivor and an advocate, might have a couple of questions for you. You already answered one about going from theater, how you went from theater to MAD. Being a leader in traffic safety. Well, let me go to the other one because you touched on behaviors first.
Mhm.
Because one of my frustrations is seeing the behavior on reels, people who are driving and recording, videos and stuff, which is, as we all know, is highly distractive. And we have this technology. Is it I don't want to say it's too late for behaviors to change because we're making all this technology to stop bad behavior. But what do you think, in your opinion, has to be done to change those behaviors that seem to be outrunning that technology to make things safer in the car, if that makes sense?
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of technology that cars currently can utilize and coming down the pipeline. One of the things we have seen states doing recently is intelligent speed assistance, ISA. We call it ISA. And that, to me, similarly to when we first introduced ignition interlocks for impaired drivers, it let them continue to use their vehicle. They just had to be sober, right? You blow into the interlock, prove you're sober, car starts, off you go. These ISA devices can be put on cars of folks who have shown that they cannot make good decisions when it comes to speeding. Their driving is reckless and they're endangering not only themselves, but everyone around them. So you can use this device that literally stops the gas pedal from being able to increase speed when they have hit the speed limit. And so those are the types of technologies that can be used immediately today to curb some of this unsafe behavior. And that's not on every car. That's on the car of someone who has proven they need an intervention, right? But they're moving to future technologies. Europe just put into place a law. It went into place, I want to say July 1st, where all new vehicles have to have certain systems in them to detect driver inattention, basically to be able to detect distracted driving. And then it notifies the driver, whether it's through, a sound in the car or a visual, a light flashing or a buzz in the seat. It makes the driver understand that their inattention has been noted and they need to get their eyes back on the road. So there are several of those types of technologies that exist. Certainly here in America, the Congress passed the HALT law, which I'm sure you're aware of, for impaired driving. And we're just waiting for the standards to be set so that all new vehicles would have some sort of technology, and that what that looks like is yet to be determined. But that technology would be in all cars so that no one would be able to start their car if they are at an illegal level for alcohol. I mean, these are things that everyone should be in favor of. We had recently on Jonathan's podcast, Chair Homendy from NTSB talking about the HALT law and the fact that nobody's in favor of impaired driving. I don't know anyone who wants people to be out there driving impaired. Yet we have this technology available we have the ability to create a much safer environment for all of us. So what's keeping us from doing that? And I think that's the discussion that we need to be having. You know, what can we all do? And I'm sure it will come up during our annual meeting to support technology that can be used effectively. You know, we've heard that phrase, some people came up with this phrase, a kill switch, which my immediate reaction to that was, you mean a live switch? We want people to live.
I agree with you on
You know,
that
what
one.
are you talking about? There's that doesn't exist. You know, somebody did a really interesting job marketing something that's just not real. And unfortunately, people believe what they hear, you know, instead of digging in a little bit and doing some research. But the ability to save over 10,000 lives a year, we really do need to focus on that. We need to move on that. This is not science fiction. This is science available. This is technology that's here. Technology that's in cars in other parts of the world saving lives. And that, to me, it's just sort of mind-boggling why anyone would not want us to have these tools in our vehicles and make us the safest we can possibly be.
Speaking of that and technology, I have two follow-up questions. Number one is, I'll go back to this technology, and what is the association's stance on these automated cars with no drivers in it at all? And then the other one is more personal in terms of, as a leader in traffic safety, what keeps you inspired in doing what you're doing? So those are my last two.
Well, I might end up linking them together, but certainly one of the things that inspires me is the technology that's coming. I mean, I am not a scientist by any stretch of the imagination. None of my jobs that I've ever had included science. However, the people that are and what they're creating is amazing. And it's, you know, there's no additional step. I think that's one of the pieces, just briefly to go back to the HALT law. The technology we're talking about, you will never know is there. It will never affect you unless you have been drinking and are trying to drive, right? So anybody that's sober, you're never going to know it's there. In terms of autonomous vehicles, you know, we feel strongly at GHSA that autonomous vehicles are an incredible tool. They're proving to be incredibly beneficial. The safety record does stand for itself. Are they perfect? No, they're not perfect. And they're not trying to pretend that they are either. You know, we've had some really good conversation with Suzanne Fillion from Waymo on Jonathan's podcast. And she really is upfront and talks about how important it is to them to fix any issues that are detected, any software. You know, they've been transparent when it comes to updating that software when those school bus passings were made. That information was shared.
I remember reading about that.
You know, that's an incredibly important piece. You know, these vehicles, we don't want them to be you know, we don't want people to stop their progress. You know, they're imperfect, yes, and they're making progress, but we can't, you know, it's talking about throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? We have to, for the good, we need to incorporate this technology, and I think it's pretty phenomenal. I have not ridden in a Waymo yet. I can't wait.
Okay.
I'm excited. You know, I haven't done it yet, but I know that several of my colleagues here at GHSA have, and they just feel so safe. I mean, that's the bottom line. They feel so safe in those vehicles. So I'm excited. I can't wait to give that a try.
You're more brave than I am. I don't know if I could do it.
No,
Well, you know,
I said I wasn't going to do it, but I am excited. I'm willing to try as well. I told I am. And the president, I want him to ride with me.
There you go. There you go. And then Michael, I guess the one other piece in terms of inspiration, it's everybody around me, everyone in my family, whether that's my immediate personal family or my traffic safety family. I want us all to feel safer. I'll be honest with you. I don't drive to work. I take the train, and it's a long commute. It's 2 hours each way. But you know what? I feel safe. And that is something that I wish I felt better when I was in my car. You as well as I know what people are doing in their multi-ton vehicles. And so my inspiration is I would like us all to feel safer when we take to the roads with our families and friends, and feel that those around us, people we know and people we don't know, all want to have safety top of mind. And so that keeps me working in traffic safety.
And it's
Well, you might have
ironic
just
that you're in
go ahead.
DC and we talk about traffic safety because DC is notorious for bad traffic. I would take the train too if I was there.
Well, I just, I think we have a way to go in terms of getting people to recognize that what they are driving is a 2, 3, 4 ton machine. We just released our pedestrian report yesterday, and we know that vulnerable road users, pedestrians, it's over 6,700 people a year. Last year, those are estimated numbers, and those are all people that went out for a walk or, were in their wheelchair going to the park, were in a stroller on a walk with, and those are people that aren't coming home. And, finding an opportunity, thank you both for sharing your stories, because that to me is the most impactful way. We can put out safety messages. We can share data and facts, but nothing is more impactful than the victims who are willing to share their story, whether it's through their loss or through their survival, and personalize it. And so, thank you to you, and thank you to all that continue to do that, because I think ultimately that is our best opportunity to change people's behavior.
Thank you. And I appreciate that because I think you're right. If we speak our own stories, that attachment, I just was speaking last night and sharing my story, and we all know that impact that it makes on that personal level and how that really makes a difference. We may not get the entire audience, but even if we get one person,
That's right.
then it's a win. I mean, of course, ego and mission, we want to get everyone, but well, I guess we got to play the odds sometimes and just get that one person,
Yep.
and we kind of go from there. And I will say we have about 4 minutes left for this for our recording, so we can start winding it down with whatever questions you have left, LaDonna.
My last wrap-up question for you, Miss Caroline, is what message do you want to give to the families who have been affected by preventable crashes?
That we are going to continue to fight for you. We are going to continue to do everything in our power to make sure that others don't suffer what you have suffered, the loss, the death of a loved one, the injury of a loved one. We're going to do everything in our power, whether it's communications, whether it's technology, whether it's proven countermeasures. We are going to continue to fight that fight with you until we meet our goal of 0 deaths on our roadways.
Well, there you have it. Crash Talk 3D, where we speak stories, bring definitely information from our lawmakers, Miss GHSA Communication, everyone, and my co-host as a survivor who has many stories such as that reflect to someone that's been in a drunk, drug, distracted driving situation. Again, to our land of the living. As your co-host, I want to say, Miss Caroline, thank you for your leadership, your clarity, and your dedication to saving lives. Your work reminds us that prevention is not just policy, it's people, it's families, it's communities choosing responsibility over convenience. We appreciate you, the way you continue to elevate safety as a national priority. And to our listeners, thank you for choosing awareness, for choosing truth, and choosing to be part of this conversation and protecting lives. Until we meet again, stay present, stay responsible, and stay safe. As I always say in my quote, when the silence of one's good deed speaks, it echoes louder than anyone can imagine. As always, I want everyone to hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Michael, always thank you, Miss Caroline. Thank you for all what you're doing, and thank you for taking and accepting us as our guests. My allergies, I know I look like I'm crying, but I've really been touched by everything you said.
Thank
Until
you.
we meet again, thank you, everyone. Much love.